Hello and welcome. My name is Kate Griffiths from Whole Self Leadership, and I'm coming on today to share with you what I'm picking up in terms of the energies for the coming week as we get into December and closer to the shortest day of the year, the 21st of December. So the bottle that jumped out at me today, the one that I want to really focus on, is this one. So as I show you the bottle, take a look at the colours. What do those colours and that combination evoke for you? Take your time and discount nothing, because it's all information. And if you're very observant, you'll have noticed that I'm actually wearing those colours today. So as we look at that bottle, it's called the Tower, and it's based on the tarot. And the Tower is when there's a big change coming, and sometimes it's forced and it's not easy when it's like that. Or so it appears on the outside, because maybe you haven't chosen that thing. So if you've been made redundant, it's not something that people would choose. And then often what happens is something better that fits you more emerges if we allow it and don't get caught up in the drama of what's going on. So that feels to me a bit the energy at the moment, and it can be a real challenge to be that way. So if I give you an example in my own life, over a week ago I invited my 85-year-old uncle to come over for a walk and to have dinner with us this Friday, because it was after the lockdown had finished. And then my husband wasn't very keen on this for very good reasons. He really wanted to see him and cares about him deeply. He was worried that it didn't fit with the rules, and because of the nature of his job and seniority of it, that was more important, was also very important and weighing on him. And the old me would have put my foot down, screamed and shouted, or forced a decision and a way through. But this time I was able to lead with the almost lime green of that top bottle of the bottle, which is the feminine power, feminine leadership. Go, okay, let's take a look at this. Let's not react. Let's see, is there a way through it? And together we looked at the rules and we worked out that we could be his support bubble, and that would mean he would be allowed in the house. And so that's what we did, and we had an amazing time. So, and it's linked in many respects to the lilac underneath, which is a bit like this second bottle. We took a look at that, so take a look at that one. How do you feel about that? Quite a few of my clients have been choosing this at the moment. It's called Saturn. Can represent relationships with a father, especially if they've been difficult. It often comes up when there's loss and there's healing that needs to happen, because if we look at the spritzer that sits behind it, we find this beautiful one, which is more like the pale colour and like the bottle. It's called Lilac Angel. And again, just pay attention. How does it make you feel? Often that comes up when we need to forgive somebody else or forgive ourselves. We have to be ready to do that. I had a client at the beginning of the year who'd suffered a lot of loss, but they weren't ready to forgive. They were still feeling very angry, which in some ways is a bit like the other colour, the lime green, or olive green we call it in the system. It's very like this, which is very deep, sort of olive green. It's wood. Wood comes up when we need to detox and we need to get rid of that anger that's inside, because obviously anger is corrosive. So that gives you a bit more of an insight into the bottle and why it can be hard to go with the change that's sometimes required to shake things up. It's like, why fix something if it's not broken? And yet it takes courage And nature loves courage. So when we step up and we say, no, I'm not doing this, or it doesn't feel right, then, or we step into the abyss and you're falling and you think you're going to, it's going to be terrible. And then you realise that actually you're landing on a bed of feathers. How amazing is that? And you need that courage to start with, which can be really hard to find. But the other thing about this bottle that we've been looking at today is if you do take that leap of faith, a bit like the fool in the journey, then actually you get to new beginnings, which is what is the promise in the olive green. And that's the magician, who's also saying anything can happen when you take that first step. So it's worth it, because then you come to this place of authentic power, which is this lovely bottle. I am is what this bottle is called. So anything you put it with gives you an answer. So that brings me to the last bottle, this beautiful pink one that came up the other day in a reading. It's the Venus bottle. So if you have it with this one, you're saying, I am love. And if everything you do comes from that intention of love, then you'll get some amazing results. That's the promise. And so sometimes the disruption can look messy and confusing, painful, or people resist it. But actually, if you've tuned in and that is the divine will, then actually you're being cruel to be kind, because you're allowing something new to grow up in its place rather than it plateauing and accepting something which deep down you know isn't right for you. So the invitation this week is to really find that courage, to take that step, perhaps into a place which does feel disconcerting and uncomfortable, where you don't know what the outcome will be. Because if you're connected to the divine and you have checked in, and that is what you're being asked to do, you will be supported, because you won't be on your own. So I hope you found that helpful. And if you could do with a bit more support, then do think about joining our growing group that meets on a Wednesday for half an hour. It's called Stillness is the Access Point to Your Essence, and it's a short contemplative meditation, and you would be very welcome. The link's in the notes below. And whether or not you join us, I wish you a wonder-filled week,